Welcome back, friends. So today we are going to learn about Excel, pandas and how to plot some basic graphs. So this is post our discussion last time on the CSV and the text files. So since panda is not a module that's already available within Python, we are going to install it. We are going to use a utility called pip, and we will also see a utility called easy install. So I'm just doing pip install pandas. It's going to connect to the internet, download the file and add the module to your Python libraries. Okay, so now it's going to install pandas. So it has downloaded. Now it's going to go further and install it. Now there are some dependencies for pandas. So, or if there are some packages which are around it which are required while using pandas, it does install and download and install the modules also, like here numpy. It has installed numpy, and then now it's installing pytz and so on and so forth. So Python, the pip utility takes care of everything. You don't have to bother much. So it is now going to install numpy, dateutil, python tz and pandas. So it's done now. So now let's go ahead and install the library to plot graphs, which is called matplotlib. So we are going to install matplotlib using the easy install program. It's similar to pip. We can even use pip. So easy underscore install whatever is your program or the library. Matplotlib in this case. We want to connect to the internet, again download it and then install any dependencies. That will also get downloaded and get installed. So here the easy install has exited with status 1, which means some things have not installed. You see around, it says there is a problem with free type and PNG. So these are the modules that it required which could not be installed due to some missing. So it requires some development package. No need. Not to worry. We will install it individually and do it. So it's now installed. We have installed pip install free type py and pip install py-png. So they have been installed. Now let's give it a try again using easy install and see what happens. So these are the utilities which we will widely use in Python because the basic everything is open source. So as and when people find a need to develop something, they develop a module and share it in GitHub or in Python itself where there are packages. So we can always download and install whatever we require and use it to our suit our purpose. See, again it has failed. Even though the packages are there, it has failed on the same packages. Sometimes it could be an problem with easy install version itself. So we are going to just now run pip install and try and see if it's a problem with the package or installing the package, or it's a problem with easy install script. So let's see now what happens. now it's gone through fine. So that was some issue with easy install probably. So yeah, we'll continue now. So now we have installed the two packages that are required, pandas and matplotlib. Now we are going to see the input file. So we are going to work with Excel. We are going to have this Excel file with the name, age, height in centimeters, weight in kgs. So there are some random entries that I have done. We are going to use this Excel file in our program, read it and try to work on it. So let's start with first using the pandas. So before anything, we are going to import our training util and the read config, because from now onwards whatever we do, everything will be in the config and then we will read from there. So I'm going to import the read config file, set the config, set the path of the input file and then use that. Now let's print once and see if everything is fine. Is it picking the file and then is picking the right file and then printing it. Let's rename it. Let's name it as, since we are using it for Excel, okay, interaction.py or something like that. So yes, so now it's reading the file. So we are going to use this input file that I showed to do the rest of our program. Now we are going to import panda. So also import panda as dr, data reader. So probably we'll call it as data reader dr. You can call it anything, or we can just keep it as import pandas, and everywhere instead of dr we will have to use pandas dot something. So it's easier, instead of giving the bigger name we are going to call it as dr so that it becomes easier. Okay, and what comes out of it will be a data dump. So it will be data dump is equal to dr dot read excel file name. In fact, at this moment, let me tell you, Panda can also read a text and a CSV file. What we did last time using the open file, we can use it directly using Panda. dr.read CSV. If we do, it can read a CSV file as well. Now we are reading the data dump and assigning it to data dump. Let's print it and see what comes. So ideally you will get the contents of the Excel file. So now it gives an error saying that there is no module called XLRD, which effectively means Panda probably uses within itself a module called XLRD. So we need to install that. That's again pretty simple. Pip install XLRD will install your XLRD module. It might take a couple of minutes based on your internet connection. If you are behind the firewall or behind a proxy, you can specify specifically you can specify the proxy address. So pip install XLRD followed by the proxy address so that it will go through the proxy. So it's done now. It went through pretty fast. So it's done. So now you are getting the data out of the Excel file as it is in the Excel file. Just note it also adds the index, which is not there already in our Excel file, 0 to 15. So there are 16 entries. Now we are going to work with the data inside the Excel. So we are going to read it, assign it to the data frame, what we call as a data frame. Data dump is called as a data frame. So if you Google around, you will see people assigning it to something called as df, which is basically a data frame. So now let's try to first transpose the data, so which will make the rows the column and the column the row. So I'm going to assign it to data underscore t, which basically is data underscore transpose. And let's run this and see what happens. So here basically you see the rows have become the columns. So that is how transpose works. Now let's see some more. So I'm going to put an index, okay, an index on age. So whatever you put, make sure it is unique, okay, so otherwise it will give an error. So normally index is considered to be unique. It should not duplicate itself. So in our file, I don't think we have a duplicate age, so it should work. So now, yeah, you have this. So you see some of the values are coming as a name, which means there is no particular value assigned to it. Okay, for age of 10 and height of 120 centimeters, uh, there is no weight basically. So it doesn't give anything. So it doesn't show anything. So we can actually address that NaN as well, that we will see later. Okay, so we will see later on how to replace the NaNs with the empty value. Now we will see how to sort the data in the data dump data frame. Okay, so there is an option called sort values. We can say what needs to be sorted. Sort based on age, whether it's ascending, descending, whether we have to sort it, like for example in this we are giving age comma height in centimeters. So I want it to be sorted by age only in ascending. So I can give ascending comma ascending within brackets true comma false, which means it will only filter by age, and then I can give now let's run this. So here it is ascending. See, the index has changed now. The 15th one comes in the first. Okay, because the age there is, we are doing by name and age. So it does by name and then tries to do it by age. Okay, now I have changed it. Let's see how it comes. Let's try a few combinations. So now it's supposed to sort by both. Yeah, that's the top one is original, second one is, so it just did it. So the age has gone up by name, so the lowest, so M is before N, so the 15th row goes up. So in our data set, we have not jumbled up the data much. So when you do multiple sorts, it might still result in the same. So you could also try using descending, or both ascending and descending. So these options you can try it out and check out how pandas will give the output. Now we will see more on how to analyze this data. So basically what people do with data, find the maximum value, the minimum value, the standard deviation, the mean, and so on and so forth. For this we are going to add more values here. We'll add one more column called gender, okay, so that it is easier for us to group by, so that there are lesser categories under which it will group. So here we will have male and female, two genders we will give, and then work on them. We see how to group it and see how to find the mean, median, standard deviation, etc. out of it. Yeah, now the data is saved. Input Excel is saved. Let's go back and work on this new Excel or the updated Excel. Now we are going to use the group by. So data dump dot group by. So this is another advantage of the editor. It automatically shows the functions available and you can pick it. So group by gender. So I want to group it now by gender. So we are going to call the function size. So that will go the does the group by and give the split. Yeah, so it says there are group by male 9 rows and group by female 7 rows. So this is how it has grouped the data. Now we are going to add more data to it. Let's say height in centimeters. So we get a more profound figure, or if you want to correlate something with people being taller, people or gender being taller, gender being shorter, so on and so forth. So these kind of analysis will help. So let's call it HT. It's by height, so I'll call it as HT. Later on we will see by doing with weight also. We'll call it WT. So weight in kgs. So when we'll run it and see. So here it's there. So a female with 100 centimeters of height, how many, so on and so forth. So it basically gives you the distribution. So we will now go and find the mean, standard deviation, max, min, so on and so forth. So for that we will use a function called describe. So like size, there is something called describe. So we are going to do that. So here you get it. So there is a, for both of them it has given. So all the values have come out. Okay, so since there are more rows and more columns, partly it has come in the next block below the above block. So this is how you get the data for analysis. So now what currently people do is open an Excel, do all the analysis, and put it in back or whatever, keep it in a different sheet, blah blah blah. So instead of it, you can pull the data out of the Excel sheet, fill all your details or do all the calculation and write it back to the Excel. We will see in the end how to write back to the Excel as well all this data. Now let's add few more rows into your data sheet. So we're going to make it bigger with some duplicate rows, rather than some more rows which has the same age, and then add more weights, different weights, so that when you do the standard deviation, mean and all those things, you will get a better output. So I'm going to add a few more rows, and then we will again run these programs on that and see how the output has changed. Yeah, so I have added everything. Now let's go back and run the program. So now you will have a higher count for each of those, and if count is a different one, so your so as your standard deviation, mean and all will change. So this is how you, yeah, you get the data now basically. Now let's do the same with age. So where you compare the age of a person of a particular gender with what is the average weight he has or a average height he has. So this is where basically the data analysis part works. Okay, this is how people see what could be or predict what could be the height, what could be the age of a particular person of a particular age and a particular gender. So let's do some cleanup so it doesn't print too many lines, and then run it. So yeah, so there you get the output. So here you know now that a percentage of 10 years has a average weight of so much, a minimum weight of so much and a maximum weight of so much, so on and so forth. So similarly with the height also. So you have both analysis of weight as well as height. Now let's see how to plot graphs. Okay, so for graphs we use the library matplotlib. Okay, so I'm going to import matplotlib.pyplot and give it a name plt, and then use the plt, yeah, the module to plot the graphs. We are going to see both scatter graph as well as histograms. Okay, and there are a lot of options which are available in matplotlib. So you can go to the website of matplotlib and see. It's a huge ocean in its own, right, from animations, 3D graphs, etc, etc. So we are not going to dig deep, so that you can go through and then see how it can be used. So I'm going to call my graph. I'm going to initialize a plot area. I'm going to initialize a plot, okay, by giving plt.figure for the graph, and then using the my graph I'm going to create subplot in which I'm going to plot the graph. So I'm going to call my subplot sb underscore graph, which will be my graph. Now I'm going to give what kind of a graph it is supposed to plot. So it will be a histogram. And then I'm going to give against what values it has to plot. Here I'm going to plot it against age. So date dump, which we have already initialized, of age. Sorry, data dump of age, yeah. And bins is equal to 5, which means it will try to divide the age into 5 buckets and then plot it. Okay, so yeah, so now we are going to give plot plt dot. We have to actually show the plot. So it will be plt dot show. That is going to plot your graph and show it on your screen. Let's run it now. So it has plotted now, but this doesn't make any sense because there are no labels on the axis, or neither there is a title to the chart. So let's put a title and label the axis. And also you see there are about 8 parts there from 10 to 50, which is 40, each of them split by 5. So there are 8. So the bins ideally should be 8 to get a good feel or get a good plot. So first let's put the titles. Plot dot title, age graph, or something like that, age distribution. So x-axis label will be age, and y-axis label will be number of people who fall in that age bracket, whether it be 10 to 15, 15 to 20. So that's how it plots. So let's say number of people, yeah. So this is how your age plot comes now. So this is much better than what it used to be earlier, because it has a name, title, label, etc. Now let's change the bins and see how the plot comes. Let's make it 8. So here you see now the number of people has changed to 5. Earlier it was 8, because now it's better. So if let's count 1, 2, 4, 5. Yeah, there are 5. So it shows as 5 for people from 10 to 15. Okay, again 15 to 20, if you count, it will have another 5 people. So there. Now the plot is coming better, rather than it was earlier kind of showing 8, but it was not actually split in the right bins. Now we will see the scatter graph. In scatter graph we can give we can pass, yes, both the axis, let's say age and height in centimeters. Let's change the x label and y label as well. Age remains the same. The y label becomes height in centimeters. We'll put it as height. So you have the age plot with age versus height. So each of those points gives you the intersection point of. So here ideally you have 1 point per row. It's not like a histogram where it says number of people within this age bracket is so much. So this is how a scatter graph looks. Now we'll go back to writing back to Excel. How do we write whatever the data we have gathered back to our Excel sheet? So we call a variable Excel writer dr.excel writer. What is dr? Dr is the name of the module panda. So it's actually pandas.excel writer. Since we have named it as dr, we are going to call it as dr.excel writer and give the path of the file where you have to write. Okay, so yeah, so ideally we can still have a variable set there in the config file and use that as we have used at every other place. So you can try it out doing the same. So we're going to give the data dump frame, data frame dot excel underscore to excel. Excel writer, which is Excel writer here. So that's the variable we have set it. And then the sheet in which you want to write. So I'll say it's the input sheet. Okay, so whatever data we have read, we are writing it. So we'll save the file, Excel writer dot save. Okay, the plot we have not removed. So now it says it requires a module OpenPyExcel to write it. So here we'll make a note that Excel writer uses, or rather pandas Excel writer uses the PyExcel module of Python. Let's quickly install pip install OpenPyExcel. It's even downloading some of the dependencies it requires. You see it uses XML file. So basically all docx, xlsx files are all XML files, so which are zipped basically. So let's hash the unnecessary stuff again and then run it. So let's see now what has it written. So you will see one extra column, the index column in the beginning. The rest remains the same: the name, age, height in centimeters, weight in kgs, and gender. So the input sheet is written now, input sheet. Okay, now let's write something, the transpose part of it once, and see what happens. We'll write it to a different sheet. So the transpose was data underscore t. Data underscore t to Excel. Now we will call it some other sheet. Let's say output sheet 1 or something. So now let's go and see how the sheet looks like. So you have an output sheet which has the transposed values. let's call it the transpose sheet so that it makes it easier. Now we will go and try to put the value which we use for analysis. And call it the analyze sheet. Okay, let's run it now. So we have a third sheet now, analysis. So it has all the data. So there is one separate section for age which has everything, and then there is a section for height in centimeter which has the same count, mean, standard, minimum, 25%, 30%, 75%, max, so on and so forth. Okay, let's now do it on age, gender and age. We'll remove this because that makes more sense. Okay, now let's go back and check the Excel once more. Yeah, so now it's age versus height. That makes more sense. So if you want to put across this analysis. Next in the next session we will go through NumPy. Okay, NumPy is numerical Python. It's a library that contains linear algebra function and Fourier transforms and other random utilities. So we are going to study about NumPy.